In 1953, grown men crept through a summer camp at night, slashing tent ropes and wrecking boys' belongings. They wanted the kids to blame each other. The kids took one look and blamed the adults. That camp was Muzafer Sherif's first attempt at the experiment your textbook calls Robber's Cave. It failed. It failed so badly he buried it, ran it again a year later, and rigged the conditions. The rigged version is the one the world still quotes as proof that tribalism is human nature. Here's what the buried failure actually shows, and it's the more hopeful finding by a mile. First, the story you've probably heard. Summer, 1954. Robbers Cave State Park, Oklahoma. 22 11-year-old boys. Two groups, kept apart, each believing they had the whole woods to themselves for the first week. They named themselves the Rattlers, the Eagles. They made flags, they picked leaders, they marked territory. Then the staff introduced them with a tournament. Baseball, tug-of-war, inspections, a trophy, medals, pocket knives. Within days, they were burning each other's flags, raiding cabins at night, filling socks with rocks. Strangers to sworn enemies in under a week. That's the line every psychology textbook pulls out. Then the researchers broke the camp's water supply. The boys fixed it together, and peace returned. Clean, tidy, quotable. Competition makes enemies, shared problems make friends. It's in 1,000 lectures. And it's all true. It really happened. But something happening isn't the same as it happening naturally. Muzafer Sherif wasn't a curious academic hunting for a paper. He'd watched this happen to real people. As a young man in Turkey, he saw soldiers kill men in his town and walk past him. He spent the rest of his life on one question: where does that hatred actually come from? His answer, radical at the time, was that it isn't inside people, it's inside situations. Put ordinary boys in the right structure, he argued, and you'd get prejudice on a schedule. In 1953, he got the money to test it. A serious grant, a real budget, a deadline. The Rockefeller Foundation was funding him. Funders want findings. That detail matters more than it sounds. He set up camp near Middle Grove in upstate New York and put his researchers in as counselors. That was the design. The counselors were the experiment. The boys thought they were just at summer camp. The parents weren't told much either and weren't allowed to visit. Different era, obviously. Phase 1 at Middle Grove was the part Sherif would later delete entirely. He let all the boys mix first: swimming, meals, bunks, 3 days of ordinary camp together. Friendships form the way they always do. The kid who shares his snacks, the kid who's funny. Then, the staff split them into 2 groups, deliberately putting best friends on opposite teams. That was the real test. Can a brand new team label beat a friendship that's 3 days old? Sherif expected yes. Give people a team, and the team wins. That was the whole hypothesis. The boys didn't cooperate. They kept crossing the line to sit with their friends at meals. So, the staff escalated. Competitive games with prizes, engineered so one group would always feel cheated. The boys shrugged. Some suggested a rematch. Some suggested just splitting the prize between everybody. That's not what a tribe does. That's what you do when a board game's rigged and you're still friends. So the researchers stopped waiting for conflict and started manufacturing it at night in secret. They cut tent ropes so a tent would collapse. They wrecked clothing. They took personal belongings. Every time, they left just enough evidence to point at the other group. A frame job, basically. The boys stood in the wreckage of their own tent, looked around, and refused to take the bait. One idea that came up was forgive and forget. Another was that a counselor had probably done it. And they were right. That's the part that still gets me. 11-year-olds solved the case. They started comparing notes. Who was where? Who'd been acting strange? Which adult didn't add up? The camp turned into a low-grade investigation, with the research team as the prime suspects. One staff member got singled out and confronted. The boys demanded answers from the grown-ups, together. Together. Across the group line, Sherif had spent a week carving into them. It just dissolved. Here's the part left out of every retelling. The study didn't only fail, it flipped. The 2 groups Sherif built to fight each other had merged into one group aimed at him. He'd proven his own theory backwards. A shared enemy builds a tribe. He was the shared enemy. By one account, Sherif took it badly. Drunk, furious, threatening a member of his own staff. An assistant had to talk him down. Weeks of work, serious funding, and a camp full of friends. Middle Grove got written off as a pilot, a methodological difficulty, a footnote if that. Not a result, a malfunction. Because in Sherif's framing, the boys had behaved wrong. Sit with that. The finding was that ordinary kids given 3 days of friendship wouldn't turn. Not that they wouldn't turn easily, they wouldn't turn while adults actively sabotaged their camp to force it. That's a real discovery about human beings, and it sat in a box for roughly 60 years. If that just reframes something you were sure about, that's exactly what this channel is for. Stick around. Because a year later, Sherif ran it again, and this time he removed everything that had gone wrong. Robbers Cave, 1954. Same ages, same screening, and the screening is its own quiet tell. The boys were chosen to be as similar as possible. Same background, same faith, same kind of neighborhood. Stable homes, decent grades, no history of trouble, and crucially, not one of them knew another. No pre-existing friendships. That single change is the entire difference between the two experiments. Change 2. The groups never met. Each was bussed in separately, unaware the other one existed. For a week, they bonded in isolation. Names, flags, songs, inside jokes, a pecking order, a territory. By the time they learned about the other group, their own group was fully built and worth defending. At Middle Grove, us had meant everybody. At Robbers Cave, us was engineered to mean half. Change 3. The staff didn't intervene. Raids happened. Fights happened. The adults stood there taking notes. And when the tournament threatened to run away, the scoring included events the staff themselves judged. Which kept it close, which kept it tense. A close game is what makes people hate. Sheriff watched from inside, working as the camp caretaker under a false name, broom in hand. He wasn't a fraud. He genuinely believed the 1953 boys had been contaminated by that early mixing. In his mind, he wasn't rigging an outcome. He was removing noise so the real effect could appear. That's the thing about clean results. Somebody decided in advance what counted as noise. And it worked. Perfectly. Flags burned, cabins raided, names invented, socks weighted with stones. 22 boys who'd have been friends at any normal summer camp, at each other's throats in days. Then came the famous reversal, and it's worth knowing exactly how manufactured that part was, too. The staff secretly blocked the camp's water supply, then sent the boys out to find the problem. Both groups walked the line together, found the blockage, and celebrated. Nobody brought up the tournament. Then a truck wouldn't start, and the only rope long enough was the tug-of-war rope. They pulled it together. The same rope they'd used to hate each other now pulling one direction. That image is real, and it's genuinely beautiful, and an adult set it up on purpose. By the last day, the boys asked to ride home on a single bus instead of 2. And one group spent their prize money on malted milks, for everybody, including the boys they'd fought. Sheriff called it superordinate goals, a problem too big for one group which forces them to cooperate. It's a real and useful finding. Shared stakes beat proximity. Just being near each other fixes nothing. But put the two summers side by side, and a different pattern shows up underneath. In 1954, hostility took a week of engineered isolation, prizes, and adults deliberately looking away. In 1953, peace took 3 days of swimming together, and it survived professionals trying to break it. One of those two things was fragile and needed constant maintenance. It wasn't the peace. The mechanism is simpler than the textbook version. Group loyalty isn't automatic. It has to be built. It needs separation, a name, a boundary, and a reason to think the others want what you have. Take away any one of those, and the whole thing becomes very hard to get started. You felt this. The team you got assigned in gym class stopped mattering the second lunch began. But the group chat you've been in for 6 years, you'd defend that against a stranger instantly. Same person, different structure. The difference isn't your character, it's how much history the group has. So the practical move isn't lecturing people about tolerance, it's changing the order things happen in. Mix people before you sort them. Give them a shared problem early. Get the friendships in first. 3 days of ordinary contact beat a professional's deliberate attempt to manufacture hate. That's the buried finding. Robbers Cave is real. It's just the answer to a question that got redesigned until it answered right. If this reframed something for you, like and subscribe. Next up, the Stanford Prison Experiment's leaked coaching tape. Those boys got it right in 1953. We filed their answer under failure. See you in the next one.